In this video, I want to talk about how to sell your cleaning company and how to maximize the value and get the most out of it. I think the first thing you have to consider before selling your company to somebody is how attractive is your company to somebody else to buy. Now, there's ways to make your company appear more attractive and to just be more attractive to potential buyers. The one thing you have to keep in mind is that most small businesses and a lot of cleaning companies, the majority of cleaning companies, operate as a sole proprietor, or there's one person in charge, like the owner, and then maybe a few employees. In this situation, you have a job, and if you want to maximize the amount of money you can get from your company, you need to grow it to the size of having an operator or somebody who can run the show when you're gone. Basically, you need a high-end second in charge, somebody who can do everything for you. Otherwise, no one's going to want to buy that company, because no one wants to come in and have to do all the work that you're doing right now to make the same amount of money that you're making. The people that come in with the biggest pocketbooks are usually in private equity or other large investors, but the people that are these large investors do not want to buy a company that they have to go in and work in, because these people own 2, 10, 100 companies, and they can't do it. They have a team of people that operate these companies for them, but every company usually has an operator or a CEO in place for those companies. So the key number one, like we just discussed, is that you have to have it self-sufficient. It has to be self-operating. Not completely, not 100%, obviously that's impossible, but as self-operating as you possibly can make it, which obviously you have an operator, but the other thing that you need to consider is having a really high-end training system and having some SOP, standard operating procedures, for all the processes that goes down in your company. Having a good training system will really increase the value of your company, and having standard procedures that everything has to follow that kind of couples with the training system makes your company a more smooth running machine that someone else would want to buy. Another thing that I've seen a lot of is that you really need to diversify your client base. You don't want one of your clients to be really any more than like 15%, maybe 25% of your business. Even at that level, it's still really dangerous, because if you lose that one client, you lose a massive chunk of your company. And if somebody's going to come in and buy your company, there can't be that risk factor. If there's that risk factor, say 50% of your clients are from one company, like 50% of the money, the profit that you get every month comes from that one company. What if that person comes in, buys your company, loses that one client, the value of your company is cut in half, and it really increases the risk when it comes to buying a company like that. So if you want to increase the multiplier of your company, you have to limit the risk. And so everything I'm going to talk about in this video is about limiting risk, which is why having a diversified client base limits the risk. The other thing it comes to when having a company that can operate for itself is that when someone else buys your company, are your managers going to leave? Is your manager family? Is it somebody who, like, when you're gone, they're out as well? This is a big deal, because that person needs to stay because that person knows this company, and that person can help the new owner operate that company. One of the best ways to do this is having management incentives for them to stay. There's growth incentives and growth goals and objectives that you can have for them to reach. And also, I would be transparent with the people that work with you and tell them that you are trying to sell this company, or that you are in the process of selling this company, because I believe that the transparency will, people want to know what's going on. And if you hit them like a brick wall, they might leave. Like if you walk in with a new owner one day, they might just, screw this, this guy doesn't trust me, this guy never, never told me anything, and I want to go. I don't want to work with this company anymore. I don't want to work with a company that does this to people, etc. So that's a major thing, which is mitigating risk, like I've already talked about. And so if you haven't done it before, how to calculate the valuation of your company is something called EBITDA, earnings before interest, taxes, and amortization. I think I did that. I might have missed something. Either way, it's the profits of a company, and they also call it SDE sometimes, which is sellers discretionary earnings, which is more common for small companies. And the reason I bring that up is because the profit, or the EBITDA, or the SDE multiplied by a number in the cleaning industry, anywhere from like 1 to 5 being on the high end most time, is what the valuation of your company is. So say you have $100,000 in profit and you get a 2x, that means that your company is worth $200,000. Now, the reason risk is such an important factor is because the risk is what calculates the multiplier. Basically, the lower the risk for your cleaning company, the higher multiplier you can get. If I can come in and buy a company and feel like this is the most smooth operation thing I could ever buy, I'm going to give you the highest multiple that I can, because it's probably worth that much. Another thing you really need to consider is that if you have a longer time horizon, is to clean up your books for about 3 years. You really should have good taxes and good everything, good clean books, because this will help speed up the process of somebody looking at your books and wanting to buy your company. It also will increase the value because you can have like real good looking profit margins and everything. A lot of the time, especially with small companies, which there's no harm in this, but you mix and interchange some of your like travel expenses or whatever it might be, food expenses, into the expenses of the company for tax write-offs. But since that's the case, you want to clean those up and get those off your books before trying to sell it, because it'll make the profits look larger than what exactly is the money the seller is spending on things. Another important factor when it comes to selling your company is there a client acquisition process? Is there a advertisement management? Is there things that are growing the company that are pretty automated and without you? Because if you are the sole representative of your company and you're the sole salesman of your company, it means that you are the driving force of what makes your company grow, and somebody might not want to buy it, or it'll decrease the value of it at the very least, because you are the representation of that company. Because if you are the face of a company and you leave, your clients, say that are your friends in town or your family members in town or whoever they may be, may leave because the only reason they did business with you was because you were the face of that company. So you really should have people that oversee all your clients, and you should have a sales process that operates without you as well. Long story short, most of what it is that increases the value of your company is eliminating you from doing things. You know, above and beyond that is just increased multipliers. But below, at a lower level, at a smaller company size, you need to decrease how much you do from day to day. Now, for the actual sales process itself of selling your cleaning company, there's a couple ways you can go. One is you get a broker, and the other one is that you go off market and try to find a buyer yourself. The major advantages of using a broker, which I would typically advise against, but there is major advantages of it, is one, they will try to increase the value of your company for you, and two, you'll get a lot more exposure that way with a broker, because broker has connections to people who are buying. They have a lot of connections with people that want to buy companies like this. But the major disadvantages, number one is going to be the massive payout that you have to give them on the sale, which is anywhere from like 2 to 10%. It could be massive. I mean, you sell a company for $1 million, you might have to fork 100,000 of it directly to them right away. Also with brokers, the sales process is going to be significantly slower, because you're probably going to have to use some banks and some other things that'll really slow down the process. Now, if you go off market and find a buyer yourself, the major advantages of this are going to be that you can have a really fast sale. You can do things like seller financing, which will increase how much money you're going to get over the time horizon because of the interest that you're going to charge on this deal. You don't have to do the brokerage fees. Now, the massive disadvantage to selling it yourself that the broker does offer is that you have to find a buyer yourself. You have to market your company yourself. Now, there is listing places like Biz Buy Sell and TransUnion and other websites that you can list your company for sale, and you just have to figure that out and do it yourself. But it just means you have to do everything yourself, and these brokers have done this 1,000 times, so it's easy and seamless for them. Now, I want to talk about seller financing deals and like bank buyout deals, and what is like the advantage and disadvantage of both. So for seller financing, the biggest disadvantage is that you're not going to get a massive payout day one, but the major advantage is that you get interest on the price that you want to charge. Now, say somebody wants to give you less for what you think the company's worth. You want to sell it for $1 million, but they want to buy it for $900,000. You do a seller financing deal over a horizon of 10 years at 5% interest. You're going to end up making way more than you would than just a buyout for $1 million. Now, the other major advantage is that you pay less in taxes, because you're going to spread out all the income you're going to make over 10 years instead of one big cash payout on day one that the government's going to take half of, and then you're good and gone. So seller financing, another disadvantage is that you are in bed essentially with the person that is buying your company, because that company is going to pay you back essentially. You're not going to have to operate it anymore, but they're going to use the money that's made from the company now to pay you back in the future the loan amount. But what that means is that they do well, and the company has to continue to do well for you to get all the money, which is a risk factor. Which brings up why like a bank buyout or someone paying cash is better in certain scenarios, because they're gonna buy you out day one, and then you are out of the business. You can go do whatever you want to do with your life, but you have to pay taxes on that, of course. If there's more questions, please let me know. And if you watch this whole video, I would really appreciate it if you hit that subscribe button. And I'm always making videos, so thank you very much for watching. Have a good day.